In this video, we will show you how to replace your transmission filter and gasket. Let's get started. Okay friends, let's get started on our job. The first thing you need to do is make your way under the hood to the transmission dipstick. Looking at the dipstick, you can tell exactly what type of fluid you need to use for this service. Mercon LV. Make sure you have plenty of that fluid available. Before you continue, grab onto that dipstick, lift it up, and give the fluid a quick inspection with a clean rag. We want to make sure there isn't any large chunks of metal on there, in which case there would be damage to the transmission. This one looks okay. I'll take the dipstick and slide it into position, leaving it up just a little bit. Now let's make our way safely underneath the vehicle. From underneath the driver's side of the vehicle, you're going to be able to find your transmission pan, located right here. Before you continue by removing any of your mounting bolts, you need to make sure you clean up any of the debris in the local area. Use a little brush and some parts cleaner, make sure it's nice and clean. Once you have the area cleaned down, continue on by removing all of your 8mm headed mounting bolts. Now keep in mind, once you remove all of the pan bolts, the pan could potentially come down and there is fluid located inside of this. It's a good idea to leave at least 2 bolts in this as you continue. I'll leave this one in right here. We'll leave one on the back side as well. All right, we're at the point where we only have 2 bolts left to remove. Make sure that you have a collection bucket underneath the area so you can recycle all of the fluid. Generally, I like to have the fluid come down along the backside here. So what I'll do is I'll loosen the forward bolt just a little bit. Continue on by safely removing the rearward bolt. We'll leave this in a couple threads. And now we can start separating the pan from the transmission, being extremely careful not to damage the pan or the transmission in any way. Now that we've let that drain as much as possible, we'll continue on by removing the pan. Keep in mind it will still have fluid located inside of the belly of the pan. Now that we have the pan out of the way, let's continue on along where the wiring harness goes. If you were to grab onto this area, you'll notice that it wiggles around. Right about here, there's a little piton that protrudes upward into the transmission filter. We'll use a small angled pick. Carefully get in between the area and gently pry it down. Set this aside. Now we can grab onto the transmission filter. We're going to give this a little twist as we pull it down. Typically, when you pull this down, more fluid will come out of the transmission. There it is, friends. With that filter out of the way, make sure you clean and inspect the mounting hole. That looks good. Okay friends, let's get ready for our installation. You'll notice on the brand new filter, it comes with a brand new O-ring on it as well. It's a good idea to lubricate that a little bit. Generally, you should use some brand new transmission fluid right around the entire O-ring and then slide it into place. With that lubricated, we'll go ahead and put this up here. Obviously, this large area goes into this hole. You'll notice on the far end, it also has a locating little piton that protrudes up and fits into this hole at the same time. Make sure you press it completely into the transmission. Grab onto it and try to give it a little tug. We're not trying to pull it out, but we do need to make sure it does not fall out. Let's continue on to the sensor. Press it into place, give it a little wiggle to make sure that's secure as well. The next thing we need to do is clean our mounting bolts and our transmission pan. You don't want to leave any of the existing gasket, especially if there was a gasket maker in the area. You also want to pay attention in the pan itself. Typically, there's going to be a magnet. That needs to be cleaned and inspected. If you see any large chunks of metal, that essentially tells you have an issue with the transmission itself. Once you have the pan and the mounting bolts clean, continue on to cleaning the transmission housing where it's going to go. If you find you have debris that's caught on this area, use a scraper. Make sure you do not damage the aluminum transmission. Now that we've cleaned the transmission, it's time to go back to the transmission pan. As you can tell, I cleaned the entire area where the brand new gasket's going to go. Take your brand new gasket and match it up with the pan. If you put it on wrong, it won't match up, so just go ahead and flip it over or around as needed. As you can tell at this point, all of my mounting bolt holes line up and my magnet is clean and in place. Let's get this put onto the transmission. Once you feel as though you have it lined up, continue on by starting in each of your mounting bolts. Do not tighten any of them until every mounting bolt is at least started in position. When you start these in, start them in by hand or with a socket, but never use any type of tool that could potentially cross-thread them in. Once you have each of them started by hand, snug them up. After that, torque them to 89 inch-pounds. All right, so once we have everything torqued, the next thing that you want to make sure you do is clean down any of the existing residue from fluid that might have made their way down onto the transmission or onto the subframe. Now let's make our way back onto the hood. Take a funnel, put it into your transmission dipstick. Continue on with your brand new fluid. As I had mentioned, the manufacturer recommends Mercon LV fluid. You can also typically use universal synthetic fluid. Just double check on the back to make sure it covers the LV. Assuming it does, let's continue on adding. To continue this process, we'll start off by adding 4 quarts of fluid to this. After that, we'll start it up, run it through all of the gears, and let it sit running for a little while so it can get up to temperature. After that, we'll check the transmission fluid and add as necessary. Remove your funnel. Make sure you wipe down your dipstick before you reinsert it. Once you have that in the fully down position, go ahead and start up the vehicle. Make sure you're on a flat level surface. Run it through each and every one of your gears, pausing for approximately 3 seconds in each gear. Finish and park, let it continue running until it gets up to normal operating temperature. Once it has, we'll make our way back out here to the transmission dipstick and check our transmission fluid level. Alright, at this point it's been running for a while. I already ran it through all the gears and we're on a flat level surface. Go ahead and pull out that transmission dipstick, give it a quick wipe, and then reinsert it to check the fluid level. When you check the fluid level, you want to make sure you're inside the hatch area right here. If you're down below it, you need to add some. If you're above this area, you need to actually remove a little bit. There we are. As you can tell, our level is full at this point. We should be clear to go for a road test. Aside from that, double check underneath, make sure you don't have any fluid leaks. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.